Hey everyone, today I just wanted to make a video talking about which characters I think would join ICE in the Marvel Universe. First up we have Adam Warlock. He's a space guy, he's a good guy, but he's usually off in space, philosophizing and doing nothing. So yeah, he's gonna be in the missing slash ignorant category. Then we got, I'm pretty sure Hank Pym, Ant-Man, and he's definitely joining, all the wife beaters be joining Anti-Venom, I guess. Um, I would say he'd just be street fighting or MIA slash ignorant, but if he sees something going wrong, he's probably gonna intervene because this was a redeemed version of Eddie Brock, tricked into thinking he had cancer by the Venom symbiote, and then he got the anti Venom particles because of Martin Lee and all that. Anyway, we got Apocalypse. He'd most likely be ignorant, or he'd just, be enjoying it. um, he's not a racist, but he definitely is a eugenicist slash, might makes right kind of guy. So God knows what twisted beliefs Apocalypse has. Then we got Beast. At least I'm gonna say it's Beast. It could be Dark Beast, in which case he'd definitely be joining or helping Ice. But if it's good old Beast, he'd be in diplomacy. Alright, so we got Beta Ray Bill. He's an odd one. He's most likely just not gonna be aware of what's happening off somewhere or the other in the universe. Black Cat definitely sabotage. I can see her in street fighting, but she'd probably not want to get into the thick of it. Work in the background and whatnot. Alright, so we have Black Panther here. He's most likely gonna be diplomacy because he is not an American citizen, but probably stands against what is happening in the country. Then we got Black Widow, definitely in sabotage because she's one of the greatest spies in the entire world. Um, we got Blade, and he's definitely going in street fighting. He's not exactly interested in much else, um, other than vampires. Right, then we got Cable. He's definitely in the guillotine area because he probably came back from the future to prevent whatever was happening. So he would not be, um, you know, effing about. We got Captain America. He's definitely starting a revolution. This is pretty much an event so significant that it's on the level of the Superhuman Registration Act, but it's so much more inhumane that he would actually start a revolution here. Then we got Captain Britain. Look, I know he's he's actually decent if you've read the Incursion stuff by Jonathan Hickman, but I'd say he'd be in the ignorant section. We got Captain Marvel here. She would definitely be helping. She's not a good person. She is a military person first and foremost. She's very powerful, but she's also arrogant, and yeah, you'll see there'll be a running trend amongst the superheroes here. Extremely arrogant, aggressive, and narcissistic. Alright, we got Carnage. He would definitely be in the joint slash help because he would get an excuse to do inhumane things like murder. Alright, we got Colossus, and he definitely is gonna be going into street fighting. He's gonna see someone and protect them. We got Crossbones, he's definitely joining and helping. Cyclops is, I'd say he'd be starting the revolution or joining the revolution. Similar with Daredevil, he would be a street fighting guy, but I think he could also go in diplomacy because he is a lawyer. But that would technically be Matt Murdock or whatever. Alright, Deadpool, street fighting. He might try to join the revolution, but he would get kicked out. He could be in Guillotine, but I think he would enjoy the chaos so much because he gets to play hero, you know. Doctor Doom is definitely ignorant or he doesn't care. This is not like that 9/11 comic book where Doctor Doom shows up and sheds a tear. Alright, we got Doctor Strange. He is definitely ignorant or missing in some other alternate dimension. We got Domino, and because her powers are bad luck, I'm gonna say sabotage. Don't worry, this section is gonna have more than just women in that. Yeah. Um, Dormammu, he would technically be fueling it. with his magic, but he'd probably be missing. Sam Wilson would definitely help Ice. He is a stooge of the government and not a real superhero. At least the MCU version. The comics version is fine. He's actually pretty cool. But still, if he's gonna be Captain America, it's unlikely that he would be going against the government just because of how he's been written in comics and other media. Then we got Galactus. He's definitely going in the ignorant category. He's off eating some planet somewhere. Gambit would definitely be street fighting. He would not be taking any of this. Gamora, off in space. Ghost Rider would be on the guillotine team. Guillotine team. Yep. Green Goblin would probably join or help. Most likely Norman Osborn would be funding the the enabling of ICE agency, but I'd say sometimes Green Goblin would step in and fuck around as well. I don't know. Groot would also be in space. Hawkeye, Guillotine. I considered him for Revolution, but over the recent years, Hawkeye has definitely become a bit more rogue and he's all about like utilitarian stuff. Like, he's about getting shit done. He does like Captain America, he is a hero, but he's more like Black Widow and he does kill. We got Hela, and she would probably be helping Ice, but most likely ignorant about it. The Hulk would be in diplomacy only because he would be too much of a wild card, and Bruce Banner would not allow himself to let loose and endanger civilians, even though Ice would be terrified of the Hulk. The Red Hulk, he would definitely be helping. Thunderbolt Ross would. He's basically the guy who runs the ICE agency right now. Alright, we got Johnny Storm. I'd say he'll go into street fighting. Iceman also goes into street fighting. Invisible Woman, probably the Revolution. Yeah, this would definitely lead to her and Reed getting a divorce, but we'll get to that when we get to that. Alright, Iron Fist, he's definitely going in street fighting. Iron Man, I considered putting him in the join or help category, but he is um, anti-government and anti-violence. I guess it's complicated. There's many different interpretations of Iron Man. Tony Stark, he's not a pacifist, but he does not condone. He is a hero. He is a hero. That's all. That's all. Um, but he's also a white billionaire, and his company would force him to not intervene. Maybe it would be a cool story where we would finally see Cap and Iron Man work together for once instead of what happened in Civil War. And I might go ahead and put him on Revolution. Either it's Revolution or he's ignorant or joining and helping. That's how many different interpretations of Iron Man's character a reader can have over the decades. So that's what I'm gonna leave it at right now. Riri would definitely be street fighting and saving people in her area. I believe she's from Chicago, so yeah. Um, Jean Grey, okay. We're gonna have to put her in Revolution. Um, although from a story perspective, she might be written out of it because she's too powerful. But then again, that's not what we're doing here. Jessica Jones, she's definitely in the guillotine section. She does not have time for pedophiles. Sorry. And she definitely doesn't have time for rapists either. I mean, it's what the first season of her show was all about. We got Kane Marco Juggernaut. He's been softened up over the last few years as a character, but I'd say he would either be ignorant or he'd join and help. Or maybe he'd be street fighting. Depends. Is he on the X-Men or not? Right now I'm just gonna go ahead and say street fighting. Although he would make excellent sabotage if he was a good guy, because there's no way to stop him. The Kingpin is definitely funding stuff and making a play for power while all this chaos happens, yeah. Craven, now the thing is, he's not American, but he does like hunting others. And yeah, I think he'd help. Loki would definitely be in sabotage. Why Loki and not Hela and such, like Surtur? It's because Loki is very heavily interested in Earth politics and Earth stuff, just like Thor, so him and Thor, they would be involved, in my opinion. Um, Luke Cage is definitely in the Revolution category. Magneto is 100% guillotine section, guillotine team. We got Modok, who would be joining or helping. Moon Knight would be part of the guillotine team. Now, Reed, the thing with him is, if you've read Civil War, you know he's actually a dumbass and not the best person. There's this speech between him and Spider Man in the Spider Man tie-in comic, and he basically is like, shut up and follow the law. So I'm gonna go ahead and say he'd either join or help, but in order to not angry Sue because of what happened in Civil War, he'd most likely be ignorant on the diplomacy category, but I don't think the intention would be that good, so I'm gonna go ahead and put him in ignorant. Look, I know Reed's character has a lot more depth than that, but when it comes to politics, he has repeatedly been shown to be a complete dumbass. Alright, so Miss Marvel is definitely in the Revolution section, but I'm gonna put her in Street Fighting because, she's just a kid. Sorry. Mysterio, I would say he'd just be ignorant or hiding, or if it's like a Suicide Squad Thunderbolt situation, he'd probably join and help. Although I'd say he goes in sabotage because he's not that evil. He might help out. Maybe it's like a he's in his civilian clothes and he sees something happening and there are zero superheroes intervening. So he's like fuck, and he has to like pull some special effects and trick the ice agent. We got Mystique. She's definitely in sabotage as well. Namor, I would say Revolution, just because maybe he thinks that the new world order would be better for the Atlanteans, but really he doesn't give a shit. Nebula, off in space, not involved. Nick Fury, he'd probably be presumed dead, but he'd definitely be in sabotage or missing, There's also his dad, Nick Fury Sr., who is now the Watcher, but or the Unseen or whatever. But it's more like they essentially share the same role in this situation, although Nick Fury Sr. might be more alongside Revolution slash Guillotine. I don't know. Guillotine, what is it? Alright, Nightcrawler, he's definitely in street fighting. I can see him in sabotage actually, because he would be using teleportation, to get people out and save them. Nightmare, why is he even on this list? Nova would probably be in space, and even if he wasn't, he would not care. He'd be like, there's far worse shit going on in space. Um, Charles Xavier, yeah, diplomacy. Honestly, ignorance, very similar to Reed, but better half of Reed in this case. The Punisher, it's just so obvious we're taking him to Guillotine. I mean, the Guillotine team. Quicksilver, I could see him being on the Guillotine team, but yeah, it's street fighting for him. The Red Skull is just joining and helping. Rocket's not on Earth. Neither is Ronan the Accuser. Rogue would be on the Guillotine team or the Revolution team, or maybe Street Fighting alongside Gambit. Maybe Street Fighting. If Gambit's alive, she'd be along with him. Wolverine. Well, no, that's not Wolverine. That's Sabretooth, isn't it? Yep. Sabretooth would be in the join slash help category. Scarlet Witch alongside her brother would be uh, street fighting. Jennifer Walters is a lawyer, first and foremost. At least that's what I think she'd like to be seen as. So She-Hulk would be in the diplomacy section. Um, you know, kind of like Daredevil. He would like in the morning he would try to save the people being illegally deported, and at night he'd be saving the people from showing up to court tomorrow, essentially. Yeah. Then we got the Shocker. Um, I guess this is a shocker, but I think he'd just be hiding. He's German, right? Hermann Schultz. Um, I'm not sure if he'd want to be risking his situation because criminals of his scale, they would normally get deported, but there's the Marvel universe where superpowers, super tech, so he goes to a fancy prison, whatever. We need more politics explained in the Marvel universe because it's not like our world anymore, but and yet the characters fit so well into our world. Shuri would be diplomacy or sabotage, but she'd be the on the face of it, she'd be diplomacy, but secretly she'd be doing sabotage. Um, we got Silver Surfer. He would not be on Earth. Otherwise, he probably would be street fighting, maybe sabotage, because he's so fast and powerful and stuff. Spider Gwen, street fighting. Spider Man, street fighting. I could see him joining the revolution if shit gets really dark, which. Oh no. I see it, but anyway, he'd probably be too busy helping people while he's swinging to the revolution, in my opinion. Alright, so we got Star Lord. He's missing. I don't think he'd give a fuck. Um, Storm, I'd say diplomacy. Yeah. I could see her in the revolution, to be honest. She's not like the Chala. Um, the Skrulls, if there were any. Actually, all the Skrulls would probably be against ice because they can be found. But yeah, I think the Skrulls would not be happy about ice and would try to sabotage it whatever way they could. Now we got Surtur, he is nowhere to be seen or heard. We got Taskmaster. Yes, Taskmaster. He'd probably join and help just for the fun of it, for the money, for the kill, for the blood. Thanos, unaware. The Ben Grimm's just street fighting. He might join the revolution. Same thing as Spidey. Thor is Thor is on the revolution. He follows the captain. Um, Ultron would join or help because he might see it as accelerating the decline of the human civilization, allowing him to take over sooner than he'd hoped. So he would join and help if he was allowed to. Venom would also go on street fighting, although I see him in the revolution, but more street fighting, lethal protector and whatnot. Vision would definitely be in sabotage. He would also be diplomacy on the face of it. I don't know. War Machine is joining ICE. He's leading the National Guard. Yeah, he's leading the National Guard. Alright. Wasp would definitely be in sabotage, but diplomacy more likely. Bucky is definitely in the guillotine team. Wolverine as well, no doubt about it. And we got Yellow Jacket who would join our help because he makes money and can commute his sentence, maybe. And we got Yondu, who is nowhere to be found or seen or heard. And that exactly does it. This is my list according to me and my 2-3 decades worth of reading comics, I guess. Yeah, I think the Guillotine guys would probably just not allow this to continue any longer. The Revolution guys would try to bring change the best way they can, most effective way they can. Street Fighters would just be about saving lives. The Sabotage team is the people in the background that's helping enable the revolution. Diplomacy would be essentially the token gesture stuff. And then we got the missing people, the ignorant people, and then we got the real douchebags who would join and help ICE. So yeah, that about does it. I'm gonna end this video now.